Hello and welcome to the Leggy Sports Podcast. This is the second stream we have started tonight. We just had a previous one probably 20 minutes ago. Had a little bit of technical difficulties, needed to stop the stream, get back into it. But I did want to talk a little bit more about this Pistons-Knicks playoff game. And there's a lot of things that went wrong. We already talked about the missed phantom foul call. Or I guess just the missed call. It's not even a phantom foul call. What am I even talking about at this point? Tim Hardaway Jr. was fouled. We all know that. The refs came out after the fact, pretty instantly after the game ended, and said, yeah, that was a foul. We missed that. My bad. The biggest thing that's really getting to me is it really does feel like the national media, Knicks fans, and just the online perspective on it is that, well, fouls weren't being called all game. They were letting the players play, so they shouldn't have called that and made that the outcome. They shouldn't have put the whistle in the ref's hands and in the ref's mouth. They shouldn't have blew the whistle and let that decide the game. My challenge to that is if you're a basketball team and there's a difference between playing rough and committing a foul and playing aggressive. A lot of what happened in this game was aggressive play. But when there's a game on the line in the playoffs that cost Detroit a chance at winning a game at home, that cost Detroit a chance at having 3 free throws to tying the series and have a better chance to make it to round 2 against Boston, eliminating the Knicks, I'd be furious if there was a missed whistle and people just said, you know what? Just let them play. It's aggressive. Because there's a difference between aggressiveness and breaking the rules of the game. And Josh Hart even mentioned there was contact. And I'm not trying to say that earlier in the game, every physical play should have been a whistle, because it most likely shouldn't have. But when you're in that position, and when you're shooting the basketball, and someone is physically jumping into you, that's not just playing aggressively at that point. That is breaking the fundamental rule of defense. And to me, that's the thing that's so annoying. Another thing that has really gotten to me is Jalen Brunson went down and he had to scoot himself off the court with the apparent ankle injury, something he suffered early in the season as well. He came back in beginning of the fourth quarter, looked just fine, went in searching for contact. And when you get hurt, and when you hurt your ankle, when you hurt your shin, when you hurt your leg, going inside amongst all the trees, going up for a shot, coming down, fearing you're going to come down on someone else's foot is terrifying because there's that trauma, there's that fear factor. He came out and didn't look like anything was his problem. And I'm not trying to say he was a faker. I have a different point from this. So if you're listening to that and like, oh my gosh, this guy's brutal, there's a conclusion. But Jalen Brunson looked good coming out, and obviously maybe he was scared something more significant happened, was able to stretch it out, and then the adrenaline went away. He felt fine. But all the broadcast was talking about, and I know it's kind of their job to sell narratives, they were talking about how this game will be remembered by Knicks fans. This game will go down in Jalen Brunson history. I mean, basically those exact words. And to me, that's disgusting because this isn't a game where it's Isaiah Thomas who suffers a major injury and plays through and suffers through dominating. I mean, he stepped down wrong, and he honestly, when he was down with Schroeder, he was trying to hook Schroeder's leg, so maybe that's even on Brunson at that point. The narrative is really getting twisted that the Pistons definitely should have won this one as well because Brunson was hurt and they didn't take advantage. There's those 3 free throws at the end, by the way. And as a fan of this team that wants to see success and has been dying for success for all these years, it's a slap in the face because we waited all these years. We get a playoff win. Hopefully we can get respect now because once you start winning, you get the respect from the refs, you get the respect from the league office, all of that. We're not seeing it these past 2 games. It has been a brutal ref showing, and with all the games that go on in the regular season, there's 30 teams. Sometimes all 30 teams play on one night. There's a lot of refs. And if they have 4-person crews, that the equation there leads to you having a large pool of referees to choose from when you are trying to decide who's going to be the best of the best that can fit into the playoffs and officiate these games. Are they just going through and saying, well, this ref can do it, sign up sheet right here, sign up what you can do for these playoffs, and anybody can do this Knicks Pistons game 3 and game 4. It doesn't have to be a star-studded ref crew. And there were names I remember from that crew after looking at it and hearing it. But when you're watching it, it just looks like a rookie crew out there, and the NBA didn't care to put out the best trained referees these past few games because it's led to horrible officiating that has demoralized this Pistons team. Because how are you going into game 5 now saying, I think we have a chance? Because it's honestly Knicks, refs, together against the Pistons. It was also a really good game from New York. So I'm not just going to say they were foul baiting and they got away with things and they're working with the refs. I don't think that's what it is. They're doing their own thing. Those first 2 games, I think I already talked about it a little bit. There was a ton of foul baiting, and there was a ton of Jalen Brunson doing hero ball, searching in the half court, and Karl Anthony Towns getting kind of played out of being an impact player because of other things going on. But these past 2 games, they have been making their shots. Karl Anthony Towns, another great night, 27 points, 5 of 7 from 3. And he is an outstanding shooter, the best big man shooter of all time. I know some people bring up other names, but he's creating at the end of a shot clock on his own, on an island, and draining 3-point shots. Duren even closes out and he drains them. But the biggest thing is, there are some plays where there's miscommunication where Karl Anthony Towns is left wide open, and they're just a little bit too late to getting and recovering to be able to play defense. And to me, that was one of the biggest things that we knew coming into this series. We knew Jalen Duren was going to have a struggle guarding out there in the perimeter. And the biggest detriment to that is that Isaiah Stewart is likely not going to suit up, and we haven't seen him since game 1. Paul Reed has been fantastic, playing some great minutes, playing great defense out there. But I'm not going to sit here and say he's a 1-for-1 substitute for what Isaiah Stewart can do. Paul Reed only played 7 minutes and 39 seconds in a big game. Jalen Duren, 37 minutes, 44 seconds. So at some point, you just have to call it what it is. This is a developmental series for this team. And I hate that I'm so upset about it because coming into this year, no one expected it. And every single video I've had, you probably can, if you had a bingo card for things I said the most, probably the best would be, nobody expected it this year for the Pistons team, but I just still can't get over it because it's true. What they've done has been a historic turnaround, and winning one playoff game was the highlight. After game 2, I said, you know what? They could lose the rest of the games and I'd be fine because that's all we wanted to do this year. But is that what the players are saying? Do you think they're saying, oh, we won a playoff game. Cool. We did it for the city. Now let's go let's go get to the showers. Let's get an ice bath. I don't think so. So seeing these games dropped when you're missing a key player is absolutely brutal. Let's talk a little bit about what they need to do going into the next series. Or not next series, because it's probably not happening now because of the refs. But into the next game, game 5 back in New York. Madison Square Garden is where the Detroit Pistons have played their best basketball in this series. And that's a crazy thing to say. I'm not going to say LCA was rocking more than MSG, because that'd be a blatant lie and me just kind of guessing. But to say that the Pistons fans or the Pistons players expected the kind of turnout it would get, I don't think they did. You saw what happened with the Lions in the playoff these past 2 years. Everyone from the city goes to these games. There's stars There's celebrities. There's other athletes. And it was an environment I don't think the Pistons have played in. I mean, you're talking about MSG, and it's for the opposing team, but when all those players or all those fans are there for you, that's a completely different story, completely different narrative, completely different feeling. And they were absolutely almost starstruck at that point. In those first, I guess, these 2 games at LCA, it showed. Because I will stand by it. They played their best basketball when they were going against the Knicks in New York, which for a young team is unheard of potentially. They had a chance without these ref calls or these missed calls to be up 3-1 right now. They win tonight. They should be 2-2 at least. And then let's say Jalen Brunson does commit the what the heck's that call even called? Just going over half court. Let's just call it that. The backcourt violation. Thank you to myself who thought of it. Don't know why I said thank you. But to Jalen Brunson, if he would have committed the backcourt violation, we at least had a chance to shoot for 3. And who knows, with how they defended Tim Hardaway Jr. tonight, we might have gotten 3 free throws last night as well. This series has been brutal. And like I said, I hate how upset I am with the results. But they put in so much time, and we put in so much time as fans, like looking forward to it, just to be ended by officiating. So, I don't know, just a little bit of rambling here. I want to talk a little bit more about something I saw on Twitter and something we talked about on the 313 Connect podcast last night. And if you haven't checked that out, that was a fantastic episode. It was a hilarious episode. We brought on Anthony, the host of Pistons Talk. Amazing Pistons podcast. And something I told him yesterday was I appreciate what he does, because what he brings to the table for the Pistons community is quality content, but also consistent and regular content. Quality over. Oh my gosh, I'm just not in the right headspace right now after what we've been through these past couple games. But Pistons Talk, great guy there, great content. Brennan Sims, writer for Detroit Pistons blogs, fantastic writer. And then Sean Murphy, credential media member, host of the From Half Court YouTube page. It was a great episode. We talked a lot about the game. We talked a lot about what needed to be done, things that shifted. We also had some fun activities in there. Make sure you go in and check that one out. But I talked about how Dennis Schroeder has been kind of the MVP of this playoffs, because when you bring in veterans like Malik Beasley, Tobias Harris, Tim Hardaway Jr., and Dennis Schroeder at the trade deadline, you're bringing them in to help lead this team to the next level, to bring out what you have in your young talent. And we haven't seen it from a few of these guys consistently. Tim Hardaway Jr., this game, great. Last game, started the game 6-6, missed the next 4 of his last 5 shots, and the make came late in the 4th, big shot there. So it was a nothing burger, basically end of quarter 2 through most of quarter 4. Malik Beasley has not been himself. And this is something I've also said, is that he is going back to being kind of the player that the NBA knew him as. A streaky guy who didn't really get opportunity to bounce back when he didn't do well. In LA and Milwaukee, when things didn't go well, what happened? They went a different direction because they're a championship contending team that needs to kind of focus on the hot hand. With the Pistons, he's really been able to find his groove and take his shots and sometimes lead the team in shooting. So he's been able to kind of work himself out of some of those holes, some of those shooting droughts, all of that. But during this playoff series, man, it's been a brutal time for Malik Beasley. What did he do today? Let's look at it real quick. 3 of 9 from 3, 13 points, 5 rebounds, 1 assist, -1. he has not been doing what we need him to do. And I'm not going to say one playoff series should affect a contract because he's going to be up for free agency. But does it strike a little bit of worry into giving him a contract that a lot of people thought he might get after the regular season? Yeah, it does. Tobias Harris, a better game tonight, 0-3 from 3. Tim Hardaway Jr., like I said, a decent game, 4 of 13, 14 points, plus 9. He was great when he was on the court. Should have had 17 points. And I'm going to keep talking about that because, damn, that is a brutal call. Missed call. Dennis Schroeder, though, has been one of the most important pieces to this playoff run. Only 6 points tonight. 2 of 4 from the field. 0 3-point attempts. But is always on the floor. 3 steals, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. He's one of those guys that you want on your team because it's not always going to show up in the box score. And we have a lot of those guys. Isaiah Stewart, Asar Thompson, Ron Holland. I mean, even with what Cade Cunningham's stats are, it doesn't just show exactly what he means to this team and what he does. There's a lot of players in the league like that, but there's a few who do it to the level of Cade Cunningham. One thing I saw online was talking about if you have to keep one of Dennis Schroeder or Malik Beasley, what do you do? And most people said you keep Malik Beasley because Dennis Schroeder is replaceable with Jaden Ivey. And that's something I really agree with because when Jaden Ivey went out January 1st, the Pistons were under 500 and struggling kind of in a big way to stay consistent and stay afloat. The moment Jaden Ivey went out, we did better. I'm not going to say we are a better team, but the results were showing that it was working with Cade Cunningham, Tim Hardaway Jr., and then shooting. I mean, all that shooting around Cade with the big man and Duran, Asar when he got healthy, slotted in there. But the playoffs are showing why that doesn't work. Because when you're a heliocentric player who has the ball in your hands a lot and you're surrounded by guys who play off ball, when you get trapped, you have to pass the ball. It's not going to make it to the best spot possible because you're not having a secondary initiator that can take the load off of a Cade Cunningham, make him an off-ball scorer like he has shown he can be. And Dennis Schroeder has provided that. There's been a lot of great Dennis Schroeder minutes with Cade Cunningham, and I will say that probably one of the best 2-man lineups this Pistons team has thrown out, or best 5-man lineups, has included Cade Cunningham and Dennis Schroeder. And I'm just going to say Jaden Ivey has a chance to be that plus 75%. Dennis Schroeder's the savvy veteran who kind of knows what he's doing at this point. He's been in the league long enough. He's figured those things out. But Jaden Ivey has the athleticism. I do believe he has the shooting. The shooting fell off a little bit to when he just went out. But throughout this season, he's shown that his catch-and-shoot jumper looks great. And look up his stats. His catch-and-shoot jumper has actually looked pretty good for his career from certain locations. So there's an idea of a shot there. An idea, yeah. But, I mean, he's been a solid shooter as well. He's shown that he can do it. So if he can show that consistency there, that checks that box. I just want to say he's been able to close out games this year. I mean, before he went out, what did he have? 2 or 3 game winners? One against Sacramento, one against Toronto. So I guess that's 2. And I'm pretty sure there's been others when he's had clutch buckets late in the game to kind of help put away games. He's thoroughly missed. And part of me wants to go kind of back and forth on well, do you keep Beasley or do you keep Schroeder? Maybe you can find a player that won't cost as much money as Beasley, and maybe it's you give a lot more of that Malik Beasley role to Tim Hardaway Jr., but then it's not a bad thing to have multiple creators. So people say you don't need Schroeder because you have Ivy. Why can't you have both? Because Ivy, or both of them, I keep trying to say one of them, but Schroeder and Ivy have showed that they can play with Cade Cunningham as the initiator, as the secondary scorer. They can play in any configuration next to him, but they can also lead a bench unit. So when you have those 3 guys as your main guards, there's a lot of different things you can throw out there. And for a guy like J.B. Bickerstaff, who a lot of people have said doesn't make adjustments. I've seen adjustments this series enough to know that if you have those three guys, he's going to be able to figure out how to make that into a cohesive plan and make it so you can have different iterations of those three based on what you need. And I'll just say it, Jaden Ivey, if he was healthy and here this whole year, maybe we wouldn't have the exact win total we'd have. But if we ended up making the play-in playoffs, I think we'd be doing better than what we've seen so far. Obviously, that's barring an Isaiah Stewart injury as well. We're about 21 minutes in. We had about 10 minutes off the rip talking with Brian Curtis, my brother, going through the play and him breaking it down, not being a basketball fan and seeing that was a foul and telling me there was contact. So that was more of a thing that I just wanted to prove a point with. Mike, whenever bobblehead Brunson does the same thing as THJ did, he gets the call every time. Yeah. To me, it's an absolute disservice to the league when you allow one player to do that because they are a star. Because it shows not only the other players in the league that is how things go and how the league basically just values those stars, not them. Because look at THJ. He's basically saying these refs don't respect me and I've been a veteran in this league. I have followed the rules. I have been a consistent player. I don't get many technicals. It's a big FU middle finger to Tim Hardaway. But the second point is this kind of display of officiating is proving to the younger generation of basketball players that if you're smaller, if you're 6 foot, you know what you should do? Just try to initiate contact. Make that the biggest facet of your game. And you know what? You're going to be getting points off it. That's not a great way to play because it takes away the essence of the sport and it takes away the fundamentals of the sport. Mike, really good takes there. We're going to be just kind of rambling on through this point. So welcome to the 10 eyeballs, 5 viewers in the chat. Ask questions away. We're just going to kind of be talking a little bit more about this game. Karl Anthony Towns has turned it to a new level, and I think that has been the biggest benefactor for this team. I want to look up his box scores real quick because earlier in this series, he was a non-factor, and a lot of that came from Jalen Brunson being the kind of the ball. I'm just going to say it, the only player to really do things with the basketball. Shout out from the Philippines. Mike, thanks for joining. Really appreciate it. Appreciate the commentary. But Karl Anthony Towns has taken this to a new level. And Tom Thibodeau, I know, is a coach that has been very reluctant to kind of change how the game is played from game to game. He's been fairly consistent with what he does that can kind of lead to the downfall of his teams. We've seen it in every one of his stops. But Karl Anthony Towns has flipped a switch and has basically become a new player. And it was kind of overnight. 27 points this game, 31 points last game. Game 2 in the Pistons win, 10 points. He's went out of his way to go at Jalen Duren. And he knows if Jalen Duren picks up the fouls, you get Paul Reed. And yes, he's more of an aggressive defender, but he's 6'8". Isaiah Stewart is missed, and I've said that 20, 25 times. Well, I don't know, maybe 30 times already on this stream. And if you are in the chat, make sure you check out the stream we did directly before this. We had some technical issues with my mic and volume, and that was a really good segment we did. Make sure to check that one out. But one player I've been a little bit disappointed with in the Knicks, and I know we're kind of going into Knicks territory here, is OG Anunoby. Because, like I've said, this Knicks team had so many different expectations when you have this star-studded cast. And OG Anunoby, his main goal has been to stop Cade Cunningham. And he had some great plays on him, I'm not going to lie. He had one block on a Cade step-back midi. But Cade's still putting up 25 points on decent efficiency, 11 to 23, 0 of 3 tonight. But OG Anunoby isn't hitting those corner threes, and that's what's led to this series being close. because you're seeing OG Anunoby and Josh Hart. And for some of these games, Mikal Bridges, 8 points tonight, like tonight, 3 of 12, 2 of 6. The lack of performance and cohesion from these stars is what's leading to this series going the way it has. Because, yeah, they've won, and Knicks fans are cheering their guts out right now. Maybe made up a new term there. But do you think these players are in the locker room celebrating beating the Pistons? And I don't want to belittle who we are. But over and over, I'm just going to say the expectations for that team was great. And I don't think that they're thrilled with how this has gone. Knowing that next round, they are most likely and basically going to take on the Boston Celtics, the defending champion, who has also a star-studded cast that has the personnel to basically demolish you. Drew Holiday, Derek White. Two guys who are absolutely going to shut down Jalen Brunson unless there are foul calls. But I'm just going to say that in a series where you have two iconic franchises and the Celtics basically being the more iconic of the franchises, I don't think we're going to see the whistle that we've seen. I don't think they're going to see the whistle they saw against Detroit and in the regular season, because you're going against a team who is gritty and known for their defense, and Drew Holiday and Derek White have been at it long enough where they're not going to get the ticky-tack fouls that the Pistons have. And there's a lot of stupid, and I'm going to say this. Sorry for the long pauses throughout this. I'm just trying to rack my brain with this. Doing solo pods is a little different from what I've been doing. But with Jalen Brunson in these Knicks teams and kind of more experience in these playoffs, if you have the ability to get Detroit to commit dumb fouls, that's something I expect them to do. If you're Asar Thompson, and this is something that he struggled with last year as well, if you're Asar Thompson and you're going against the Chris Pauls of the world, and you know what they're going to do to try to get a foul, if they just have to do this with the basketball and your arm is hovering over it in a spot where they're going up, that's on Asar Thompson. As much as I want to say that's a dumb decision and that shouldn't be a thing, in theory, that is contact that is preventable. That is something that Asar does not have to be doing and isn't really going to affect the play. So the Knicks have really gotten a good whistle, but the Pistons have also put themselves in position to get that whistle, and it should be expected. But I'm not going to sugarcoat all of those, because a lot of the Jalen Brunson plays was based out of seeking like additional contact. And I don't want it to seem like I'm just saying, Jalen Brunson's fine, guys. He's doing everything right. But as long as the Pistons are putting themselves in the position to get those dumb fouls like they have, and putting your arms on guys in fast break to where if you push them a little bit, if they fall, yes, that's considered a foul. Don't do that. The Celtics, on the other hand, let's get back to that point, I don't think are going to have to deal with all of the unnecessary calls, because the things that Jalen Brunson does, the Celtics are prepared. Drew Holiday is prepared. Derek White is prepared. And they're not going to be putting their hands in an area where they can just rip through. They're not going to be putting their hands on the opposing player in fast break to where if they fall, it's an obvious foul. Even if it's a light foul, there's contact, there's a slight push. By the rules, that's a foul. Does that make any sense? If anyone in the chat is completely hearing what I'm saying and thinking I'm crazy, let me know. But I just really think that the more disciplined team is going to be able to kind of limit what they do. And I can just say, how are the Knicks going to make it to 4 games against the Boston Celtics? 39 minutes OG Anunoby, 42 minutes Josh Hart, 40 minutes Cat, 43 minutes Mikal Bridges. Brunson, only 38, the least amount of minutes among starters. But let me tell you, he was out half of a quarter and maybe the beginning of the fourth quarter due to injury. And honestly, I'm surprised he came back, and I'm surprised he did so well after coming back. Okay, enough salt for me. I think we've kind of just been on here rambling long enough, and this might be the most, I don't want to say heated I've been, because I don't think I am heated right now. I think the most like annoyed I've been on a podcast. So I think there's the least amount of energy I've had in an episode before. But like I mentioned a little bit ago, we're going to head out. But check out some previous episodes. Check out the 313 Connect podcast on the Leggy Sports channel. So if you go into my videos, you go into my playlist, there's the 313 Connect, like I mentioned before, with credentialed media member Sean Murphy, with Detroit Bad Boys writer Brennan Sims. Last episode was with guest from Pistons Talk. Leave some comments. Leave ideas of topics to talk about. The biggest goal for me is to make sure these live streams can be full of engagement and full of conversations back and forth with you guys, because I want to hear your guys' takes too. As much as I want to say, I am the smartest man in Pistons world, I am not. So having the conversations back and forth kind of opens my perspective on what you guys think, because, I mean, you guys are as much fans as I am, and you guys know as much as I do. So I really want to make sure that these conversations can be had. But we're going to be heading out. I appreciate you all for joining. Throughout, we had about 6 people consistently through here. And I know that might not seem like a lot, but that is a significant amount, and I appreciate everyone who has been in the chat. Rob, did you watch the game? I did. And I watched that last play. Oh, we got a Knicks fan already in here. Oh, right when I was about to leave, too. Javar, yeah, I did watch the game. There were a lot of things that weren't called throughout, but if the game's on the line and you don't call a foul when you're right there, that's malpractice, guys. But enough. I think I've said I'm going to go twice, but have been caught off by a few questions. So we are going to be heading out. I hope you all enjoyed the stream today. Make sure you check out some of the previous content on the channel. We're going to be trying to go live basically every other day, maybe nightly. Hopefully we get a little bit of a longer Pistons Knicks series. We have more to talk about. But we'll be back soon.